Hey there, friends. It's Laurie. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today, I'm making a coastal wreath. I used mostly Dollar Tree supplies and a few things that I had on hand. It cost me about $20, and I hope you enjoy it, so let's get busy. To start my wreath, I'm using one of the 14-inch wire wreath forms from the Dollar Tree. You'll be needing 24 chenille stems, and I only had silver on hand, but they'll pretty much be disappearing on the wreath. I'm adding 12 to the outside of the form and 2 per section. I'm evenly spacing them on the outer 2 wires and then just twisting them into place. I'm continuing to work my way around, and I'm evenly spacing them as best I can, but if I'm slightly off just a bit, it won't matter once I attach the fabric. I'm tightening them as much as possible, but I am going to go back and use my glue gun to attach them in place. Now that I'm done, and to keep them from moving, I'm going to place a dot of hot glue under each of the twists. To add my center chenille stems, I'm placing one next to a support, and then the next one I'm centering in between the 2 outside stems. While you're adding them, you don't have to be super fussy that they're exactly in place. As long as they're close enough, that will do the trick. When I was done, I once again used my glue gun to attach those in place as well. Now that I'm done, I'm folding down the inside stems and moving them out of the way. This makes it easier to attach the fabric. I wanted to share with you today that I'm participating in my monthly friend collab group, and it's being hosted by my sweet friend Liana from Liana DIY. And our guest host this month is Chantal from Love and Life's Journey DIY. They both have amazing channels that you will find linked below in the summer playlist, along with my other crafty friends. If you're new to my channel and you're enjoying my videos so far, please consider clicking on that little red subscribe button below and leaving me a big thumbs up. And if you're one of my returning friends, you know I'm always so happy to see you. To give my wreath a base, I'm using 3 of the white Dollar Tree fabric table runners. I removed them from the packaging, and they each have 2 pointed ends. To attach the fabric, I'm gathering one of the pointed ends about 3 inches or so, and I'm tucking it under one of the outside wire supports. I'm then placing it between the 2 chenille stems and attaching it in place. I'm now tucking the 2 sides of the fabric under each other and measuring out 5 inches. I gather it together, making a little poof, and then attach it to the next set of chenille stems. Once I have it in place, I'm then kind of puffing up the fabric. From there, I continue following the same instructions, making sure that the 2 sides of the fabric are tucked under, measuring out 5 inches of fabric and attaching it in place. And then I give it a little fluffing after I'm done. As I'm working my way around the form, I'm always making sure that the 2 sides of the fabric are tucked under. I've made some other Dollar Tree table runner wreaths that I'll have linked below. You can come back and check them out after you watch the playlist. When I come to the end of my fabric, I then tuck the little extra end under the form. Now to attach the next runner, I'm once again gathering about 3 inches of the pointed fabric. I attach it to the last set of chenille stems where I made a poof and then tuck the end under the middle support. When I complete the circle, I attach my last poof to the first set of chenille stems. I now have the outside of the wreath complete and I'm moving on into the center. I once again measure out 5 inches of fabric and now attach it to the next set of chenille stems in the center. And now I'm continuing to measure out my 5 inches of fabric, making sure that the 2 sides of the fabric are always on the bottom, and then just working my way around the inside of the form. I made the poofs for my wreath at 5 inches, but if you want your wreath to be a little bit wider, you can always make them 6 or even 7 inches. When I come to the end of this fabric, I just follow the same instructions as adding on the last runner. Tucking under the end, attaching it to the chenille stem, and working your way around until the wreath is complete. When I was done, I then cut off the extra fabric and tucked the tail end under between the 2 wire supports. Now that I'm done, and to hide the chenille stems, I'm folding them over and twisting them together on the bottom. And once I had them twisted, I then folded them over flat. After I had all the chenille stems tucked under, I then went around and just kind of fluffed up my fabric poofs. Now that I'm done, here comes the fun part, and we get to decorate it. For the center of my wreath, I picked up this really cute surf, sun, and sand sign from the Dollar Tree, and they have a huge selection of coastal and nautical decor this year, so feel free to use any sign you'd like. To attach it to the wreath, I'm folding in half 2 12-inch pieces of floral wire. I turned my sign over, and using my glue gun, I attached 1 piece to each side. When the glue was cool, I centered the sign on the middle of my wreath and attached the wire ends to the wreath form. I'm making 8 ruffles for my wreath, and I'm using 3 of the 6-inch Dollar Tree mesh, 1 in a brown with blue stripe, a plain blue, and a white. I'm cutting 8 12-inch pieces from each, and so to make it easier to cut, I just cut a 12-inch piece of cardboard. I wrap my mesh around it and then cut both ends to get my pieces. And I did this for all 3 colors. To attach my mesh ruffles together, I'm cutting 4 of the 12-inch pieces of floral wire in half. I work with so much of it that anytime I can save some and work with half pieces, I always cut them in half. Along with the floral wire, you'll need 3 clips, and I'm just using these. They came from the Dollar Tree. With my mesh and my wire cut, I'm going to start rolling my ruffles. Making the ruffles is super easy. I'm taking one end of the mesh and rolling it into 4 curls. I'm then clipping off the end. I'm now working on the other end, and I'm making 4 more curls and then kind of walking the center up to meet the clip and clipping the 2 ends together. After I made my first one, I continued on and I made 8 in all 3 of the colors. I'm adding them together and I'll be making 4 with the brown mesh on the top and 4 with the blue mesh on the top, always leaving the white in the center. I'm attaching this bunch together by placing the brown on the bottom, the white in the center, and the blue on the top. I'm placing my half piece of floral wire over the center of the ruffles and then pulling it tightly and twisting them together. I then placed the blue on the bottom, the white in the center, and the brown on the top. Added my floral wire over the center and twisted this bunch together tightly. Now that I'm done, I have 4 with the brown on top and 4 with the blue on top. To add them to the wreath, I'm finding the center of my sign and then placing my first ruffle directly under it. Once it's in place, I turn the wreath over and twist the 2 wire ends together. I'm now placing my next ruffle directly across from my first. Once again, turning over the wreath and attaching that in place as well. I'm now attaching my last 2, one on either side of the sign. And once again, when I have the 2 ruffles in place, I then turn the wreath over and twist the 2 wire ends together. To add on my last 4 with the brown on the top, I'm making sure to evenly space them by placing one across from the other. I attached the ruffles with the blue on the top first, but that was just personal preference. You can start with either color. I'm adding 7 ribbon clusters on my wreath as an accent. I'm adding a 2.5-inch blue sparkly ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I'm also using a 1.5-inch blue ribbon that I had on hand. My next 3 are also 1.5-inch, a brown and white check, a white open work ribbon, and the Dollar Tree polka dot burlap ribbon. I'm making my ribbons 10 inches in length, and to make them easier to cut, I cut out a 10-inch piece of cardboard. I wrapped my ribbon around it 7 times, and just like the mesh, I cut off both of the ends. Now that I have all my ribbons cut, I'm going to dovetail their ends, and it's super easy. All you need to do is fold the ribbon in half and then cut away the end at an angle. And I did this for all 35 of my ribbons. With all of them cut and dovetailed, I'm making my 7 ribbon clusters. I'm starting with the wide blue on the bottom, adding my brown and white check, and then my 1.5-inch plain blue, the white open work, and then the Dollar Tree polka dot burlap ribbon. I'm keeping the ends even, and then I like to fold mine in half to find the center, give it a little pinch in the middle, and then use a half piece of my floral wire. I wrap it over the top and then twist it together tightly. And then when I'm done, I give the ribbon a little fluffing. I'm making 3 bunches with the polka dot ribbon on the top, and 4 bunches with the sparkly blue, the polka dot, the 1.5-inch blue, the brown and white check, and the white open work ribbon on the top. And once again, I fold it in half to find my center, give it a little pinch, and then attach it together with a half piece of my floral wire. Then just give it a little fluffing. Now that I have all 7 of them complete, I'm going to add them onto the wreath. I'm starting in the upper left-hand corner in between the 2 mesh ruffles, and I'm starting with the ribbon bunch that has the white open work ribbon on the top. Once it's in place, I then turn the wreath over and attach the 2 wires to the form. I'm now adding my next bunch with the polka dot ribbon on top, and I'm attaching it in between the 2 mesh ruffles. From here, I'm continuing on alternating the ribbon bunches and attaching them in between each set of mesh ruffles. The reason why I only made 7 ribbon clusters is because I'm going to make a bow and add it to the upper left-hand corner on the wreath. Now that I have them all attached in place, I'm going to work my way around and fluff out the ribbons. I'm making a bow for my wreath and I'm using all the ribbons with the exception of the 2.5-inch sparkly ribbon from the Dollar Tree. For all my friends who have asked, I did pick this bow maker up from Amazon. To make my bow, I'm starting with the white ribbon. I'm giving myself 2 6-inch tails and 2 4-inch loops. I'm adding on the brown and white check ribbon and I'm matching the white with 2 6-inch tails and 2 4-inch loops. I'm now adding on the blue ribbon and giving myself 2 6-inch tails, and this time instead of the 4-inch loops, I'm making 2 of them at 3.5 inches. To finish up, I'm using the Dollar Tree burlap polka dot ribbon, and once again, 2 6-inch tails and 2 3.5-inch loops. I'm now using a full piece of floral wire and attaching the bow together. When I'm done, I then fluff up the bow's tails and loops. And just like my ribbon bunches, I'm dovetailing each of the ribbon's ends. I'm attaching the bow onto the wreath at an angle in the area where I didn't add a ribbon bunch. When I had it in place, I then turned the wreath over and twisted the wires onto the form. With my bow in place, I opened up the loops and neatened up the tails. As an accent, and this step is completely optional, I'm adding on the Dollar Tree cotton nautical rope. Before I glue it into place, I want to position it, so I'm looping it from one center of the ribbon cluster to the next. I'm making my loops about 3 inches or so, but that's just personal preference. You can make them any size you'd like. I cut off the excess rope and now using my glue gun, I'm attaching it into place. You can leave your wreath now as is and hang it, and I think it looks beautiful, but I'm going to be adding on some shells and 2 starfish. I found this bag of shells at the Dollar Tree and I had these 2 starfish on hand. To attach the shells, I'm hot gluing one in the center of each ribbon bunch, covering up the nautical rope. I added on 8 shells, 3 to the top and 5 to the bottom. To finish up, I'm gluing one starfish to the bow and the other directly across from it. And now that I'm done, my summer coastal starfish wreath is ready to hang. I really hope you enjoyed making this wreath with me, and if you're new to my channel and you're thinking, hey, I'd like to come back and hang out with her again, don't forget to click that little red subscribe button below. I'll see you all very soon. Bye, everybody.